New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Dr. Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy to be here again. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with us today, or maybe you're watching the replay. Welcome. We are all about having conversations here at the Growing Edge with soul-centered individuals that are channeling their time, their talent, energy, resources, their joy, their passions into doing good works in the world. And today's guest is actually doing that in a big way in Orlando, Florida. And we'll hear about Anthony, my friend, my new friend, in just a little while. But before we do, we're going to jump into the first segment of our show, which is Ask Allie. And today I have a question from Hannah. Hannah writes, I lost my job. I was fired. A friend, co-worker, and daughter of the owner of the business blamed me for something she did and lied about. I am devastated. I feel betrayed, confused, and angry. My friend won't talk to me. My boss won't change his mind. Even though I was considering retirement, the way in which this happened feels wrong, and I am in shock and disbelief. Well, Hannah, I'm so sorry to hear of this loss. It must be very difficult to deal with all of those moving parts, the betrayal of your friend, the boss not believing you, and considering retirement, even though you were, having the rug pulled out of where you are at the moment must feel very disconcerting. So I want to address your question. All of us experience loss, and so you're not the only one that probably can relate to what I'm about to share. We have these lives and they're going along, and then we hit a huge pothole like you've just experienced. And it doesn't have to be to do with work. It could be a diagnosis. It could be loss of a pet or a loss of a loved one. We're constantly moving through down the road of life, and we experience something like this, and it really throws us for a loop. And that's when our spiritual practices come in really helpful. And every week I attempt to offer my support through answering a question, and it always starts with meditation. I know that it can be hard to meditate when we've got a lot going around in our heads, but taking time every day, at least for a minute, 5, maybe 20 minutes of really being still, being centered, and giving yourself some time to allow those thoughts just to be what they are and move into a place of stillness, of presence, can be extremely helpful. Some people say, yeah, but that's the time when I start really thinking about all this stuff because I'm not doing anything. And my suggestion is, hold on, keep doing the practice, because the more you do, the more you will get a taste for the gifts and the blessings that come through the practice of meditation, mindfulness, You can concentrate on something. If your mind gets really busy, a candle, an object, mala beads. You can use a mantra. You can chant something. Om Mani Padme Hum. There's lots of mantras from all around the globe that you'll find one that sort of sings in your heart and you can pronounce easily. And that gives you an anchor, something to hold on to that allows the mind to focus enough on the words that then open you up to a place of depth and peace and presence. So whilst meditation isn't the only thing I'm going to share, it's probably the most important thing to have as a daily practice when you're experiencing the potholes, the speed bumps, the challenges of life. Loss, whatever kind of loss, we're left with an emptiness. And so this emptiness is an opportunity, a spaciousness to get to know yourself a little more, because big changes are always going to happen. And we're constantly going to be feeling the connection of the things that we love and then the loss of things we love. And so in this middle way of feeling the connection and feeling the loss, there's this middle way where we learn to go and flow with the life experience or life experiences in a conscious way. And as we do our inner work, as we discover who we really are as children of the universe, as we discover our interrelatedness, our interconnectedness, we realize that we're not alone in this, that millions of people have experienced losses of jobs and loved ones, and like I mentioned, diagnoses. We end up with a new body or limitations. We can't do the things that we were going to do. And it can become a sort of a practice to be at peace with what is, even though we don't want it. We wouldn't want our loved ones to experience these losses. It's all a part of life. And the grief that comes from a loss is also a part of life. And the grief you're feeling right now as you've lost your friend, as you've realized your boss doesn't trust you, the grief that comes with that, and the grief that comes with not having those everyday activities, the roles that you played within your work, there's grief there. There's probably anger. There's probably some denial. There's probably some sadness. And there's probably some acceptance that's beginning to occur with you. I don't know how many days or weeks it's been, but after a while, there's an acceptance that starts to emerge. And there's new opportunities and possibilities that arise. Because what I know is if you're in this meditative daily practice, you'll start to see some new ideas pop up, some new feelings emerge. And these can all be invitations to take you down new pathways and new roadways. There's new friends to be made. And after you've finished tending to your wounds, you'll have the opportunity to put your toe in the water, to go out into the world and start to see what your next step is. And I know in my meditations, I open up to ask the divine or ask the universe, to ask love, what's next? What do you want me to know today? And just a simple question like that can reveal so much, reveal dimensions that you can explore, not just within yourself, but outside in the world. There's a wide, big new world. And you said you were considering retirement. And so this just kickstarts that exploration into the rewirement of who you're becoming. So, Hannah, I hope this has helped. I hope that you find your way forward as you tend to your emotions and your feelings. You practice self-care. You give yourself plenty of time to do the inner work, to explore who you're becoming now, that you actually accept this as a gift, because I think you'll find as time passes that the gift in this shock will be revealed to you. And a very important thing to remember is this hasn't dimmed your light. It's just fanned your flame. And you have the ability to move forward in your life as the presence of light that you are, that nobody else can do it quite like you can. And so by embracing your inner light and being the light for yourself, you move into the darkness or the mystery of who you're becoming and where you're going. It's all going to be revealed. So blessings on you. I'll keep you in my prayers as you move through this healing journey of separation, of loss, and of grief into the light of who you are and who you're becoming. So peace and blessings to you, Hannah. All right, so now we are moving on. And my guest today is someone that was suggested to me from a good friend of mine, Dennis Merritt Jones. And Anthony Diaz is a family law collaborative divorce and settlement attorney. He lives in Florida. He's a certified family law mediator specializing in resolving disputes easily, effortlessly, and amicably. I'm going to read a little bit more. There he is on the screen for those of you that are watching live. In his out-of-court practice, Anthony is known as the peacemaker. He is passionate about supporting his clients to do divorce differently with many non-litigation options. That's interesting. Anthony is also an international speaker whose passion, mission, and purpose are to help those in pain to move from their divorce with dignity, to move on from their divorce with dignity, to have the life they desire and deserve. Anthony is a licensed practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living since 2014 and a member of the Greater Orlando Centers for Spiritual Living. He is a leader in the Centers for Spiritual Living, I almost said conscious living there, as the as the treasurer. Anthony is the co-author of Faces Behind the Pages and Creating Relationships and Family with Courage and Compassion. He has also authored Divorce with Dignity, 3 Powerful Steps to Heal and Move Past Your Divorce Now. And another one, Enjoy Your Relationships, 7 Pillars to Deepening Your Connection with Passion and Purpose. And finally, Moving Consciously Through Conflict, 5 Meaningful Ways to Mediating Conflict with Compassion. Oh, that was a lot, Anthony. Welcome to the show.
So happy to be here, Ali. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's really a delight to talk to someone that is working in can be such a hostile environment, which is the courtroom, and working with people that are in conflict, going through a divorce. Having gone through one myself many years ago, I really would have benefited from such a loving, kind, conscious presence as you are as an attorney. So thank you for doing the work that you do on this planet. I can only imagine the heartprints you leave on the families of the people that you work with. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how did it all start for you? We talk about Centers for Spiritual Living. Some of us know about that organization, and some may not. It's sort of a new thought, falls under the umbrella of new thought, and that leans more to maybe spirituality versus religiosity. And so were you a spiritual, religious little one as you were growing up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was thinking about that when we were offline, and what I remembered, growing up, I was brought up in the Catholic religion, baptism, confirmation, was married in the Catholic Church. But I remember as a young boy reading the Bible. I don't know why. A cousin of mine was a minister, and he made sure I had a Bible and rosary beads. And I was fascinated by it because it wasn't like any other reading I was reading. I was maybe 9 or 10 years old at the time. So that gave me a foundation in a religious principle, in rituals. And I found that very attractive and comforting. And that was the beginning of my journey into religion. And it shifted when I was in my 30s to wanting something a little bit more, wanting something more than just religion. And you can call it spirituality, mindfulness, a more conscious way to live. So I was exploring that, and that's when I found actually unity when I was living in Atlanta, and that was the opening to a door of new possibilities that I've been opening since.
Beautiful. So you started in Unity, you transitioned to CSL at some point. And when you were younger, were your parents very religious? Were you like a real churchgoer, or was it just kind of on the back burner? You read the Bible a little bit as a youngster. How did it sort of evolve for you in real time?
Sure. So my family was Catholic. My grandmother was Catholic, and they wanted me to have more religion. So one of my requirements, for during the week was go to church every Sunday, and I did. Now, every now and then I would sneak off and say I would go to church and didn't. But I was the only one of our family that was actually regularly attending. The rest of the family had the beliefs, but didn't have the commitment and didn't really go on Sundays.
Why do you think that was? That's unusual for a young one in the family to be more inclined to. Was it community? Was it the message? What?
Yeah. So I think, as I look back on it, there are many people, and probably in many different religions, that adopt the philosophy and kind of do it on their own. They don't need Sunday, or it doesn't work in their schedule, and they just practice that religion. For me, most of the time, I followed what I was told to do. And I would say, you're going to church on Sundays. Okay. And did that, and did the Sunday school and things like that. And I think it was a safe place. It was comforting to know there was a God and what it was about and how powerful it was, and that he was made in, you were made in the likeness of him, her. And that was extraordinary to me. And I didn't quite get it, but it was powerful enough for me to say, I need to find out a little bit more about that.
So it was powerful and it was comforting. And so did that continue through your teenage years? And did you continue to seek out that kind of power and comfort in organized religion, or how did?
Yeah. So I think, as I got it, I think probably it was at my strongest up until I made my confirmation, because there really is a strong ritual of Wednesdays after school, and then these religious lessons, and it was really ingrained in you, and you got this huge dose of what the Catholic religion was about. And I think when I passed through that and I got older and I got more interested in things, it was on my mind, not as much. I think I practiced it as a person, love thy neighbor and things like that. It was always very peaceful in that way, and kind of followed the commandments, but I couldn't read them off to you, but it was ingrained in me. And as I got older, I got more away from the ritual part. And then I reached a point that I started to question the Catholic religion, going through different phases of my life, the loss of my mother when I was 30, and questioning how I could lose a parent at such a young age, and started to really have these deep, passionate conversations with God. I started looking at other ways to deepen my faith in God in general, and found that it didn't necessarily include the Catholic religion.
Mm-hmm. So what's your spirituality like now? What's the role of God in your life? Do you attend church? Is it something you do just in general living in like you was talking about the 10 Commandments, and I'm thinking like the golden rule, do unto others as you would like to be treated yourself. Like, is it just more of a vibe, who you are, or are you still involved in going to a place on Sundays?
Sure. Well, on Sundays, I go to our spiritual center, the Greater Orlando Centers for Spiritual Living, and that's my spiritual home. And it's very similar in that when I go there, I feel home, I feel at home, and I felt like the same feeling I had growing up as a child in the Catholic religion. God is still at the center of it, but it's more of, there was a lot of imposition of will in the Catholic religion to me, like, if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell, or a very harsh way of looking at things. And what I find refreshing and works for me in my life is, God is everywhere and anywhere. It's in all of us in many different ways. So I carry that around with me every day. It's part of my daily spiritual practice. I have prayer, I have meditation, I have reading. But it's looked at less as a person. I think growing up in the Catholic religion, it was, shown to you that this is a person or a being, where in spirituality, it's the source of our life and living. It's the one source, it's the one divine presence. And in spirituality, it's not just God. A lot of people don't necessarily believe in God. They're not against God, but they don't believe in it. So it's a general divine presence, the one source. And that's what I'm gravitated to, because it's not limited to just yours or my interpretation of God. So this really encompassing, inclusive way of living, it's a multi-denominational living, as opposed to a one denominational, which is one religion at a time.
That's beautiful to hear you say that, knowing that you're an attorney. And I'm thinking that to be so open and accepting and seeing God in all would be a really great mindset for a lawyer, rather than, this is my lane, this is, I'm of this particular group, and you may encounter judges or defendants, plaintiffs that would be of a different denomination. So that gives me the sense that your particular flavor of practicing law is one of honoring and respect of everyone in the courtroom, so to speak.
It is, and that's a really beautiful way of putting it. I look at it as, when you talk about lane, as an attorney, there are defined lanes, and that's the law, and that's the process. And when you said that, what came to me is I've created being in the express lane. that I can bypass some of this traffic and congestion that happens in the courtroom. That's part of the process by having a different belief system, that there isn't a win-lose, there can be a win-win, and that to be mindful of the other party, even though they may have a different way of looking at the case and the way that they want their divorce or their parenting to go. They're a human being, they have needs, and I have to hold a place for them at the table, because we're all at the table, and being in this express lane allows me to encompass what I have and what I believe, and to bring that out in my practice. I wanted to share a story with you, a short one.
Yeah.
I represented a mother in a very difficult case that kind of seemed hopeless, and it was referred to me because of my spiritual thought and background, and it was a dire situation from her, and she lost her children to the other parent for a short amount of time, and we were going to trial, and all the odds were stacked against us in terms of the law and what was before the judge. And the mother had such a beautiful way of looking at this, and just staying in her space of love and knowing that things were going to turn out. She actually helped me to stay in that place of believing, because I was stuck in the law and what was going to happen, and she was able to keep me present, and we had the trial, and she got her children back. And it was extraordinary. This, only knowing that God was part of that process, and that it was fair. It was a fair outcome, and it was just a beautiful experience, and that really reinforced the fact that there is law and there is process, but there's always God, and there's always the truth. The truth will always come out. And it was just a reinforcement that, although my beliefs are that a lot of these issues can be resolved out of court without a judge, because you're having a judge make a decision. And she was fortunate that the judge sided with her, but the judge could have sided with the other party. But it was a reinforcement that even in court, even in a place that you don't control the outcome, this mother kind of released her attachment on the outcome and let the truth come out, and it was a beautiful unfoldment.
Wow, that is. Well, congratulations on that. And it sounds like, when you were explaining the story, I was really getting the idea that consciousness creates, the consciousness of that woman, with her loving presence, or her whatever it was that was helping you to feel, not so heady with the law, but really staying in that place of wanting the best for everyone, that affects consciousness, affects the outcome. And also when you were sharing, I was thinking that maybe you're on track to be the judge. You've got such a sort of fair and impartialness about you that would really, that you might be a fit for that role. I don't know if that's something that you're interested in, but.
Well, I love your look at that. Consciousness is not the cause. Actually, it is the cause and also the effect.
Right.
So when you bring consciousness into the equation, everything kind of expands, and the possibilities are unlimited. And the reverse is true. Believing in infinite possibilities and believing in unlimited potential also creates that consciousness of oneness and wholeness. And in that case, we were all one. This was the best outcome for the children. The children got their mother and father, and we were all one in that outcome. But it started with a consciousness. And I think, and we'll never know, but I really believe that set the laws of mindfulness and the law of the highest good for everybody and for all in motion.
Beautiful. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and talk to Anthony. See you on the other side.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Ali.
We're back. So, Anthony, where did you get the inspiration to become an attorney?
So when I was in high school, it was a really interesting circle. I was an intern for a judge, and it was a program for students that wanted to try out what a career in a particular area would be in their last semester of high school. And I started with a judge and got to see the behind the scenes of a courtroom. I grew up in New York City, and there was a hodgepodge of legal cases, and it was a courtroom that saw a lot of different cases, and I was able to be with the judge and the attorneys as they settled cases. What was interesting about the time at that time is I had this law and order view on the law, and that, you know, things always turned out right and the law always prevailed. When I was part of this program and the cases I saw, I felt disillusioned with the law. I felt like there was settlements going on. Was it in the best interest of the clients? It really distorted my view on the law. And I said, you know, I don't want to be that type of attorney if I'm just going to be wheeling and dealing. That's not who I am. And I decided to go into the field of accounting and became a CPA. And I was a CPA for many years. Enjoyed it, but felt restless and felt a call to do something else, and had grown up a little bit to understand what the law really was, and that I can carve out a place that I can be my own attorney and you know, wouldn't necessarily be a wheeler dealer. I can create a space that works for me and who I am. And I decided to go back to law school when I was 35. And when I graduated, I slowly, I was a prosecutor, and I loved defending victims and being an advocate and being passionate. And then I segued over into family law because it involved a lot of financial issues. And as a CPA, it came natural to me. And at the time, after a couple of years, I was going through my own divorce. And it was a watershed moment for me as I look back. And that was a defining moment in where I am today. I was kind of flippant about it in a way. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm an attorney. I don't have the time. I'm just going to hire an attorney to handle everything. It'll be over. I'll move on. And it was the beginning of my spiritual journey as well. And I didn't really understand consciousness and mindfulness, even though I had a couple of years under my belt. And what I realized is it was a very high conflict situation. I wasn't proud of the way I acted in a number of ways. And we couldn't even be in the same room for mediation. And I look back on that and I'm like, I've seen these couples. And I was one of them. And afterwards, being in the spiritual community, I did a lot of reflection, and I needed to come to grips with that. And what came to me was not only my own healing, but here I am as an attorney, and the difficulty that I had with the pain and the emotions. Imagine people that don't have that legal background and understanding what they must be feeling and going through. And it was a shift for me to move into a peaceful way of divorcing, to allow people to experience their emotions and express their emotions in a conscious way, in a healthy way, and to have a different outcome than I did. You know, the outcome was everything worked out in the mediation, and we went on our way. But a couple of years later, I was in Orlando, and I was at a Hay House conference with Wayne Dyer, who was a mentor to me. And he didn't know what he was going to talk about. And he said, you know what, I'm working on this chapter of my new book about the Tao on forgiveness. So I'm going to talk about forgiveness. And this was like less than a year after my divorce. And I felt like he was speaking directly to me, and there was no one else in the room. And when it was over, you know, it was crowded. There was like 1,000 people there. And as the crowd kind of parted, in front of me was my ex-wife. She knew I was going to be there. She didn't know where I was going to be. She didn't know what this topic was going to be. And we were both brought there to hear this beautiful lesson on forgiveness. To me, that's the power of consciousness, and that this is what we were both looking for. We both walked up to each other, we hugged each other, and we left. And
oh my gosh, I feel like close to tears just thinking about that divine intervention. My goodness.
That was the moment that I knew I'm on my path. This is what needs to be done. Imagine if that could happen with every divorce. It won't happen. It could, and maybe someday it will for everyone. But it starts with one couple at a time. And that really propelled me into the work I do as the peacemaker, because it left that memory I will have etched in me forever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How's your relationship these days?
Well, we don't have a speaking relationship. It was one of those that was closure. Mm-hmm. That was, we were able to go on and do what we needed to do. And I'm sure she went on and do what she needed to do as a result of that moment. And I truly believe that was an impetus for her as well as for me to go and do the work or the life that we were meant to live.
Yeah, beautiful. So how do the two roles intersect? Lawyer and then practitioner with CSL, and how does that look in your work? Because I'm sure that what you do really supports people outside of the courtroom, as well as, well, even if it doesn't get to the courtroom, maybe in the mediation or whatever it is that a couple chooses with their divorce. So how do the two roles intersect? How do they play together?
Yeah, and it's really a beautiful interwovenness that I've grown to appreciate and have gratitude for. So as a practitioner, we do a lot of praying and spiritual counseling for our congregants, and it's a major part of holding that space as a practitioner. And a lot of people want to come and tell you their story, and I listen for a little bit, and I say, okay, what do you want to know? What do you want to experience? And I shift their thought from the story and the condition to looking at where they want to be and what they want to feel, what they want their life to look like. I do that in every consultation as an attorney. It doesn't come out as spiritual counseling, but I listen to their story and I said, what do you want to see as an outcome? What do you want to feel? What do you want your life to look like a year from now? And I get them to shift into that place that it may not be where they are now, but let's work towards that of having a higher consciousness towards that. And I don't really talk in a lot of spiritual talk, and a lot of people don't know that, but I've learned and been given the gift of being able to translate that in a way that transitions into law and get people to understand that help is on the way, and they're not their condition. Their life is greater than that. This is a mere point in time that is powerful. It's emotional. I also listen. Really, listening is so important, you know. And it's not that, a lot of times, not that people want to tell their story. They want to be heard. And being heard now allows them the capacity to shift into another place of knowing, where if they're not being heard, that story is going to be on rewind every time, and there's going to be no space for them to grow into. So it's really interesting, the intersection that I've been able to draw and connect with law and consciousness and spirituality and mindfulness and conscious living. And I help people and guide people to look at life after divorce. You can start thinking about that now. You don't have to wait till the divorce is over. If you can start thinking about that now and have the capacity when the legal part is over, now you can exhale and say, okay, I've released that baggage and whatnot. What does life have to hold? And some people aren't in that space. And when the legal part is over, they're able to do the releasing. That, and it may take them a little bit longer to get to that space, but you know, I invite my clients into that space during the divorce process, and if they're able to, it creates another way of looking at things. If not, then after the process, you know, I can and have been their divorce coach or conscious living coach, and be able to, like, okay, the legal part's over. Now, would you like to focus on the rest of your life? Let's do this together.
Beautiful. So it sounds like you're wrapping a little bit of the life visioning process into your cases. That must be new for a lot of people, because when people, from my experience, when people are in pain, they're in their story, they do want to regurgitate it and talk about it. And so to be opened up to the idea that, you know, what is it that I really want moving forward, that can be very liberating. And like you said, give them a sense of hope and put them into a different, you know, level of consciousness so that they can start to be empowered or move to a more sovereign place within the process.
Yes, and it's interesting you bring up vision, because we just did that at our center yesterday. And now that we're talking, I'm looking at all the steps in visioning, and that is very appropriate for even the divorce process. You know, what do you want to embrace? What do you want to let go of? I mean, it's a really, you know, now I have another layer. I'm glad you brought that up, because there's no coincidences, and a way for people to own their emotions, but not be stuck in it, and not let their emotions rule them. There's a space they can have for emotions, and another space for what happens, and those spaces can exist simultaneously. You don't have to wait till the emotions are gone to then start on what's next, and to be able to allow those two to be on the same track and going along at the same time is powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of the question I had earlier from the woman that sent in about the job, and I'm seeing there's stages of grief that that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about, and these really apply to a divorce too. The disbelief, the denial, the anger, the sadness, and then inevitably acceptance, and so. Very interesting.
Yeah, and I want to you bring up something that I talk about all the time. The grief process happens during a divorce, because it's a death. It's a death of a dream that two people had when they got together. They had this dream of goals and hopes that they were going to accomplish, and that dream died. So it may not be a physical person dying, but it is a death of something that was powerful and had a life of its own, and to allow people, and to encourage people to move through that process, to allow the emotions, because if you don't, it's like a whack-a-mole. The whack-a-mole, you hit something down, it pops up. You can stuff it all you want. It's going to pop up somewhere later at the most inopportune times. I can tell you that from experience. And to allow them to express themselves, they don't have a life anymore. They've gone through its shelf life. And now you can move on. So allowing all those emotions through a divorce is so beautiful and so necessary.
Yeah, well said. So I'm kind of going to flip it now. So we've talked a lot about you being a lawyer and how your mindfulness and conscious living comes into your law practice. How does the wisdom of the lawyer in you come into your spiritual practitioner or conscious practitioner, conscious living practitioner life?
Yeah. Well, one way it comes in is because I do see people in pain in my practice, and having compassion is so paramount and tantamount to what I do as a practitioner, to accept people in the place that they are and meet them there. And when I meet them there, then we can walk together. We walk alongside each other. I'm not really guiding them. I'm walking with them and letting them know that they're not alone, that they have somebody to walk with. And that's a beautiful experience that until I made that connection, I didn't really understand that. But being in both worlds really has increased my capacity for compassion to a level that I would have never imagined. Being involved with the Centers of Spiritual Living as a practitioner and an attorney has really, I think, just solidified my purpose of living, and to be able to help people through the law, and to help an organization that is so dear to me. To be on the leadership council with a legal background is so fulfilling, to be able to offer that as a tool to help the organization. I'm also the treasurer, so being a CPA in my previous career now kind of assists, in the financial part. And being president of the board of my local center, we do have laws that we have to be aware of, or that maybe needs to be brought to the attention of the board. And being an attorney, I'm able to do that. So it's so fulfilling to be able to use my consciousness in my practice as an attorney and use my background and experience as an attorney in my consciousness. It's, to the combination, it's really, we know it's one world, it's one, but to be able to make that connection and meld that into one and know that there's just me, and there's just this one world, and I just operate in different environments, and I flow in or out of them, and having this background makes it, easy and effortless for me, and I'm just so eternally grateful to be given that opportunity.
Yeah, you must be such a blessing to those different communities and organizations that you work with, seeing you come with so much. You come with such a storehouse of intellect, of all of your years of experience with working with people and difficult, challenging situations. I'm sure that whenever there's an election, they're like, we want Anthony. We nominate Anthony for our board.
Well, it's really interesting. Another story of how the universe works, and I wanted to share that. So, I was with another center. The center I'm with now was going through some legal problems. Their board was trying to sell the building from out under the congregation, which was totally unheard of. And Home Office knew I was a practitioner, knew I was an attorney in the area, and actually hired me to represent that center to make sure the board didn't sell the property, which was the congregants. It wasn't CSLs. And I was able, we had a town hall meeting in my previous center, and we were able to bring that congregation together, elect a new board. That center was closed for 2 years during this legal process. When they opened the doors, imagine a dwelling in Florida that was not open for 2 years without air conditioning.
Oh
when
my
they
God.
opened it, it was pristine. There was nothing wrong with it.
Wow.
And now this congregation is thriving, and our old center and their center merged. So it's like a full circle of me allowing them to reopen and now being a president of their board. I can't make this stuff up. It just shows you that the universe always says yes, and it always does things for everyone's highest good. And I just get these demonstrations all the time that just reinforces that this is the way the universe works.
That's beautiful. You are truly a man of consciousness. So, how do you work? You talked about conscious living coach, and I'm wondering how you work with individuals. And can people work with you? Can people find you, your website, connect with you, work with you?
Yes. So you can reach my website that's on the screen now. They can hire me as an attorney or as a coach. I could be their coach, even if they have another attorney. We're working on their divorce. I've worked with people alongside their attorney as their divorce coach to make it run smoothly. Or when the divorce is over, a lot of people are still stuck and are still kind of connected to their story, and I help them to understand that it's only a story. It doesn't define who they are. So they can reach me that way. And again, depending on where people are, some people are ready to do that conscious living work in the middle of the divorce, and it's a beautiful process. It's also a beautiful process if the divorce needs to wait. For some reason you just want to take care of that and wait till the divorce is over. Again, we can work together, and they can either email me or reach my website, and would love to speak to them to see where they are in this journey. And I craft an individual work with each person, because everyone is in a different place, and to be able to know where they are helps me to develop a process and a program for us to work together.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I always ask the same question at the end of my show. I can't believe we're at the end of the show already. And we've all heard the song, "What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love." And whilst that is absolutely true, In your mind and in your heart, Anthony, what does the world need now as you're seeing it through the lens of conscious living practitioner, conscious living coach, and attorney? What does the world need now?
Beautiful. Well, the world does need a lot now. We live in very different times. And to look back, not very different from a lot of other chapters in our history, if we really want to look back on it. The times have changed, but the consciousness is always there. So to me, what's really important is inclusion, that we can all have a different voice, we can all have a different viewpoint, we can all have different ways that we live our life, and to be able to live an inclusive life and of acceptance of other people's values and morals, that we're all together in this one world, we're all one. And if we can make it, instead of a divergence, an inclusive conversation and inclusive life, we can move through a lot of the challenges we have. A lot of the challenges we have is because there are diverse opinions that aren't being accepted. If we can do that, we can find a way to work together and to listen to each other and accept each other, the world will be a better place.
Beautiful. Well, it has been such a pleasure getting to know you, and a pleasure to have you on the show today. I trust that your practice thrives and the work that you're doing there at your church thrives, and that everything comes together for those families in the perfect way. And thank you for bringing consciousness into the courtroom.
Thank you for having me, and have a beautiful day. Namaste.
Namaste. Peace and blessings to you.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone for watching today. It's been my great joy to meet another great, beautiful practitioner, Anthony. And next week, we've got Cerise Patron, another beautiful soul, an angel on this earth with a voice that you won't believe. And thanks to New Thought Media Network, to the Satya Center for Conscious Living. And we'll see you same time next week. Bye-bye.